There's been a lot of disrespect going on with pundits picking against the Eagles. I'm not entirely surprised, but I am a little bit disappointed, I guess, in the discourse around these Eagles. Because at this point, I do think that the Eagles have done more than enough to garner some sort of respect from the national media. And it just feels like time and time and time again, they are about as disrespected as it gets. I get the fact that the Chiefs are in the midst of going after a potential three-peat. I get it. I understand. We all understand. It has never been done in the Super Bowl era before. I get it. I do. I fully understand. Cognizant of the fact that the Chiefs could theoretically be the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Totally get it. But can I also point out that the first of those championships, the first of the potential three-peat, came against an Eagles team that was very good, but wasn't as good as this team? Can I also point out the fact that the defensive coordinator 2 years ago had pretty much both feet out the door by the time the teams took the field? Can I also point out the fact that it was a team that only had a few guys on that roster that had also been on the Super Bowl winning team in Super Bowl 52, where they took down the Patriots? It wasn't a team that had been to this level. It wasn't a team that had been to the grandest stage of them all with the brightest lights shining down on them. It's a different set of circumstances now. Not only is this Eagles team more experienced and more prepared for the moment and more prepared to go on and know what to expect this entire week and know what to expect on game day, but they're a better team. Across the board, they're a better team. And at coordinator, I said before, offensive coordinator maybe is a wash, but defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio is a significantly better defensive coordinator than Jonathan Gannon was. And this defense is a buzzing group full of veteran leadership in the secondary with CJ GJ and Big Play Slay, fortified by legitimate young defensive backs and Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And who could forget Reed Blankenship? All right, so you've got that. You have Zach Bond, who was picked up off the scrap heap and is playing really for a contract here. Legitimately playing for a contract and has done each and everything that's been asked of him this season. And then you have that defensive line full of young, hungry studs and a likely return of one of those guys who helped this Eagles team win a Super Bowl in Brandon Graham. That's a defense that you just don't fuck with, okay? And if you're going to write this Eagles team off without paying due respect to that defensive core, you are doing yourself a disservice as an analyst. So then what is the weak spot for the Eagles? You flip to the other side of the ball. The offensive line, for the most part, healthy. Arguably the best offensive line in football this year. You have arguably the best wide receiver duo on the outside in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You have one of the best tight ends, at least in the NFC, in Dallas Goedert. You have, again, probably the best offensive line in football. You have the best running back in football in Saquon Barkley, and you have a quarterback whose sole mission in life has been to not turn the ball over, play efficient football, and as Seth Joyner pointed out earlier this week, does everything you need him to do at the line, checking, audibling, calling out blitzes, doing everything that's asked of him. Jalen Hurts might not blow you away with the stats by the end of the game, but he's playing as damn good a football and as efficient football as you possibly can at that position. So what's the weak spot? Because I could point back to a few weak spots from 2 years ago. But I look at this team and I say, what is the weak spot? What's the thing that Kansas City is going to be able to stop? Now, in theory, if Kansas City somehow became the first team to stop Saquon Barkley, not just slow him down, but stop him, okay, then it does put some more onus on Jalen Hurts to make plays. The good news is we have a decent enough track record here of seeing that, yeah, Jalen Hurts can make plays. He can make plays with his legs, and he can make plays through the air. It also happens to help to have that wide receiving duo and that tight end underneath. Will he make every throw? Will he make the best throw? Will he make the best read on a play? Dunno. But ultimately, isn't the whole point of this thing to go out and give yourself the best opportunity to win? Yes. And will Saquon Barkley be able to find success in this game? Yes. Steve Spagnuolo is going to try to put together one hell of a game plan, and you have to tip your cap to Steve Spagnuolo because you know he is salivating at the idea of being the first offensive coordinator to shut down Saquon on this Eagles team. It probably lives and dies with every adjustment to the game plan that he makes. And it's going to be tough for Jalen Hurts because, I mean, in fairness, they have played Kansas City, twice in the last 2 years, including the ill-fated regular season game where Sirianni was yelling at the Chiefs fans as he was leaving the field. We're going to forget about that one for a second. But from 2 years ago, Spagnuolo does have a lot of film on what Jalen Hurts and what Nick Sirianni together wanted him to do, what they thought would work 2 years ago. It's going to be a tough matchup. I'm not saying it won't be. That's why I flip back to the defense, because I look at Kansas City's offense against this defense, and for some reason, I'm just not that worried. I get that Patrick Mahomes has a winning pedigree. I get the fact that Patrick Mahomes makes plays out of nothing. It looks like he's about to slide, and then he somehow picks up another 7 yards. You might call that kind of shady. I call it intelligent unless they change the rule. He can throw a ball into the tightest window of any quarterback in this league. He's got Hollywood Brown who could blow the top off a defense. Xavier Worthy is a perfectly respectable receiver, could also get some chunk yardage. You still have Travis Kelce, who's a matchup nightmare, no matter who he ends up matching up with from the linebacking core. Will this be the Zach Bond show? Hard to say. But guys, I have a hard time looking at this Chiefs offense and saying, oh yeah, that team's capable of putting up 40 on this defense. I don't see it. The Eagles defense has been elite all year at holding teams to 21 or fewer points. They've been an absolute stout defense. I don't see Kansas City scoring 35 points. And as I've now said a few times, I don't even see them scoring 30. 38-27 is the score. Now, would I be surprised if the Eagles go out and they get off to a strong start and that defense starts buzzing? And this game starts to look not quite like a runaway, but certainly doesn't look like what the national media thinks it will. Yeah, I could see that scenario. I mean, I'll be honest with you, and at the risk of looking like a total asshole on Monday, if this were to play out, I don't see a scenario where the Eagles get blown out on Sunday. I don't see it. I have sat down like Doctor Strange, and I've played out about 4 million different scenarios in my head of the Eagles getting blown out. It happens in one universe. Thankfully, it doesn't happen in this one. I don't see it. That defense would have to fall on its face in the worst way, or the offense would have to all of a sudden become the most inefficient it's been all year, turn the ball over time and time again. Defense doesn't get off the field. They get exhausted. That's the only way Kansas City could even potentially win this game by double digits, 2 touchdowns, more than that. I just don't see it happening. I'm not also convinced that the Eagles are going to win in a blowout. I don't think that an 11-point win is a blowout. Could you get to a scenario where Kansas City picks up a touchdown in garbage time to make it look closer at the end, 38-27? Could it be 38-20 with 6 minutes left? It could be. And then everybody in the Delaware Valley's losing their shit. Poles are being climbed. It's an absolute party on Broad Street. That's entirely possible. Could it come down to a final possession? Are we going to get the karmic payoff for the phantom holding call on James Bradbury 2 years ago? I don't know. One thing I do know is this shouldn't be a game where the Eagles need it to come down to the last possession. If everything goes the way that it has gone this entire regular season since the bye week and has gone throughout the postseason, this defense should remain opportunistic. This defense should be able to hand the ball back to Jalen Hurts with decent field position. Despite the fact that a lot of people don't, I believe in Jake Elliott and I believe in his ability to succeed in a dome. And I believe that Saquon Barkley is going to find at least one home run in this game. So I just have a really hard time listening to a lot of the national media who continue to say that this is an inevitability, that the Chiefs are Thanos. I'm sorry. I have a really hard time believing that today. I just don't see it. I don't. If this were a scenario where the Eagles were the aging team and the Chiefs looked better than anyone else, all right, maybe I would be more open to the possibility that Kansas City could blow this thing open. But I don't see it. I really don't. And I'm definitely one of the farthest things you can get from a homer. Like, you think about how I talk about the Phillies. You think about the way that I talk about the Flyers. You think about the way that I'm, realistic, although I'm a little bit hopeful with the Sixers. But, the way I talk about the Union, think about the way that I talked about the Eagles at the beginning of the regular season. I'm not exactly effusive in the praise. I'm not a blind loyalist, all right? But at this point, I have a really hard time seeing this game going the other way. I'm entering Sunday feeling like, I don't know, it's gonna be kind of a surprise if the Eagles don't win. That's how I feel.